द्वैतमृतवर्षिणी भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वामनुसन्धामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमो अस्तु ते व्यास विशाल बुद्धे फुल अरविंद आयत पत्र नेत्र येन तव्या भारत तैल पूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञानमया प्रदीपः प्रपन्न पारिजाताय तोत्र वेत्र एकपानये ज्ञान मुद्राय कृष्णाय गीता अमृत दुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोगदा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोगता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम महत। वसुदेव सुतम देवम कंस चानूर मर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगत गुरुम। भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्य ग्रावती कृपेन वहने कर्णेन वेलाकुला। अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरा दुर्योधन अवर्तने सोतीर्णा खलु पांडवै रन्नदी वर्तका केशवा। पाराशर्य वत्सरोजमलं गीता अर्थगंधोटकम् नानाख्यानक केसरम हरि कथा संबोधन अबोधितम्। लोके सज्जन षटपदय रह वे पिये मानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुम लंघ्यते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम। यं ब्रह्म वरुण इंद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवे वेदै साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदै गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानवस्ति तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुः असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। Chapter 17 and verse number 19 we finished last week. Over here, in this part of this chapter 17, we can see that all human activities and endeavors, they can be classified under two heads. One is called ahar, the food. Food we take for the maintenance of our own body. So that is one classification. And the second classification is where we nourish the culture, where we have all the cooperative activities. And that's where we learned the yagya, the tap, and the dana. So Lord Krishna said ahar can be of three kinds, sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. And so can this second classification, all these which follow under that head can be sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic too. So far we have gone through ahar, yagya, and tap. Then again, Lord Krishna told us tap can be, even though it can be sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, but we do tap, austerity, with our body also, with our speech also, and with our thoughts also. So he really opened it up for us. And that's what we have been discussing or learning for the last 2 Sundays. So any question on any one of those verses? Because today we are going to go through the dana, the charity, where we share what we think is ours with the society, with the other people. Okay, so that's why I said one nourishes us, the other three nourishes the society we live in, because we are responsible for the society also. We don't live in a vacuum. We are all one at the absolute level. So that's why these three are extremely important too. So now let's look at If you don't have any question, verse number 20. So verse number 20 is the definition of a sattvic dan. Dan means charity, giving. Datavyam iti yat danam diyate anupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha tat danam sattvikam samritam. Datavyam means ought to be given. Iti means thus, yat means that, danam gift, diyate is given, anupakarine to one who does nothing in return. Anupakarine. Deshe means a place, fit place. Kale, time. Patre, worthy person. Tat means that, Danam means charity, Satvikam Satvik, Samritam is held to be. That charity which is given to one who does nothing in return. So that is one of the condition. Knowing it to be a duty to give in a fit place and time and to a worthy person. That gift is held to be sattvic. Why do we need to give? Because act of charity reduces the attachment of the giver towards material objects. It's very important to detach from this worldly objects to attain the higher purpose. So act of charity reduces the attachment of the giver towards material objects. You think it's yours, but you want to give, you want to share. Act of charity develops the attitude of service. That is a quality, that's a virtue. Act of charity expands the heart and fosters the sentiment of compassion for others. Okay. But over here, Lord Krishna is saying that when we give, this is what should our conviction be, that it's our duty. Don't expect anything back. Unconditional giving to the right person at the right time and the right place. Okay, so the recipient should be one who does no service in return. Don't put condition on it that I am giving, my name should be written there. I am giving, that money should be used for that purpose. No condition. Okay, so they offered in a fit place and to a worthy person. So such a charity made with the right faith to the right person at the right time and place is called sattvic. Why Lord Krishna is expanding it for us? Because there are other schools of thought too. So according to Lord Krishna, this is sattvic. What is the other school of thought? That is like, they give the example, they say it's like a tree. Tree gives the fruits, whoever comes can take it. So that's a philosophy also. So giving away what you have, whoever takes doesn't even matter. Okay, so they argue, people who belong to that school of thought, they argue that a tree does not make any discrimination between one enjoyer and the other, so we should do that too. But Lord Krishna says no, as human beings we have the discriminative faculty. We need to give to the right place at the right time to the right person. So and it's our duty to give. See, the best attitude of charity is to give without even being asked to do so. Because it's our duty. Nobody is asking. We know it's our duty and give it. The second best attitude is to give happily upon being requested for it. Because sometimes we don't know whether the other person needs it or not. When they request, give it happily. And the third best sentiment of charity is to give grudgingly, having asked for, like a donation, or later on regretting that why did I give so much? I could have gotten away with a smaller amount. Okay, so these are the three ways to look at it. So the best attitude is that sattvic, knowing that it's our duty and give it at the right place, the right time to a right person. So now let's look at what is a rajasik dan. Yat tu pratyupakarartham phalam udeshye vapuna diyate cha pariklishtam tat danam rajasam samritam. Yat means which, tu means but, paryupakarnam, with a view to receiving in return some kind of a recognition, some kind of a benefit. Phalam, fruit. Udishya, looking for. Va means or, puna means again. Diyate is given. Pariklishtam, reluctantly. You don't want to give, but hey, okay, I'll give. You're asking for it. That danam, the charity, rajasam, rajasik, samritam is held to be. And that charity which is given with a view to receiving something in return, or looking for fruit again, or reluctantly, is held to be rajasic. Hope of receiving something in return, some kind of a benefit, any form. Okay? And not willingly giving because you have to give. So we got to see when we give, what is our state of mind? Is it a sattvic? So same thing we are giving. We can give it as a sattvic mind or as a rajasic mind. Let's look at the tamasic. Adesh kale yat danam apatrebhya ch diyate asatrim avgyatam tat bhaktams udahritam. Adesh kale, at a wrong place and time. Yat means that, danam means again the charity, the alms. Apatrebhya, to an unworthy person. Diyate is given. Asatrim, without respect. No satkar. Avigyatam, with insult. That means that tamas is tamasic, udaharitam, declared to be. The charity that is given at a wrong place and time to unworthy persons without respect or with insult is declared to be tamasic. Time is not proper, place is not right, person is unworthy, and your giving is also disrespectful or with contempt. That is a tamasic kind of a charity. Okay, so it's like a no respect. And a person is feeling that, hey, I'm giving and I'm becoming poor. Something is being snatched from me. I won't have enough for myself. That is tamasic. Okay, so now we have learned three ways for ahar also, three ways for the yajna also, that means worship, three ways for the tap also, austerity, and three ways of dana also. We all do these. So we got to just make an effort to do more and more sattvically. But we are so busy doing so many things. How can we really dissect and know everything in detail? How do we know it's the right place, right time? There is only so much research we can do. We think we are very busy these days. But think about it. Lord Krishna, even more than 5,000 years ago, knew about it. And he just gave us a very proper nirdesh. That sure, do your research, but at the time of giving, if you bring this into your mind, you will make it sattvic. And that is the rest of the chapter is about that. Okay. So he is giving us a symbolic representation in our own minds. In verse number 23, he is saying, Om Tat Sat Iti Nirdesha Brahmana Trividha Samrita Brahmana Ten Veda Cha Yagya Cha Vihita Pura. Om Tat Sat. Okay. He says, Iti means thus, Nirdesh means designation. Nirdesh is generally given in ritualism. When we perform a ritual, this is the Nirdesh. This is how you are supposed to do. See, like when we do the arati in our Hindu temple, how to hold the plate, how to move the plate clockwise in front of the deity, that's a Nirdesh. Those are like a guidelines, so how to do it. How to take Charnamat. That holy water we drink, then we touch our head with that. That's a nirdesh. Okay. How to do certain things. We always give with the right hand. That's a nirdesh too. So over here he says, Om Tat Sat, this has been declared to be the triple designation of Brahma. Brahmanaha Trividha Samrita. Brahmana is the Brahm. Trividha, threefold. Samrita has been declared. Brahmana, Brahmans. So by using the word Brahmans, he is talking about the castes or the classifications in a society. Ten means by that Vedas, Yagya, sacrifice, the worships, Vihita, created, Pura, formally. So Om Tat Sat, this has been declared to be the triple designation of Brahma. By that were created formally the Brahman, the Vedas, and the Yagyas, the worships. So that means from them came the whole creation. This visible manifested creation we see, it came from Brahma. And Brahma is the one who is giving us the nirdesh of Om Tat Sat. So this is a triple designation of Brahma. See, every action brings fruits. But the fruit depends not only upon the action, but the motive behind the action too. So this nirdesh is for the motive. That means in your mind, keep Om Tat Sat. That doesn't mean only saying it from the mouth, Om Tat Sat. That means keep that motive behind your, it's like intentions and the motives. Bring the purity in there. Because actions, two people could be doing the similar actions, but if the motives are different, the result will be different. If the motive is pure, sattvic, it's serene, illuminating, then outcome will be like that too. So sattvic motive will give the sattvic output. Rajasic motive will give the rajasic output. Same action, but the different outcome. So that's why they say the mode of goodness is serene and illuminating. Even though sattva is also part of the Maya, but how to raise yourself above sattva, that's the nirdesh he is giving it to us. So raise yourself up to sattva, then go even beyond that. So this is this Om Tat Sat. It symbolizes different aspects of the absolute truth. What Om represents? I mean, he's going to discuss it in the next sutras also. But right now, let me tell you these three words separately. It is very important to understand. Om represents transcendental and pure self. That's Om. Okay. Absolute and unborn. Om is the infinite substratum where everything else has been projected, whether it's our body or mind or intellect. They're all maintained with Om. That is Om. So Om represents the transcendental and pure self, absolute and unborn. Okay. And the second word in this designation is Tat. Tat is used in our scriptures to indicate the eternal goal. Tat, that, changeless, ever perfect. That's Tat. From which everything has come from. And that's where we are going. That is Tat. So everything has emerged from it, and everything will ultimately merge back into Tat. And what is Sat? Sat means existence. Principle of existence functioning through everything. Everything we perceive, everything we think, everything we feel. Sat. Everyday life. So what happens is when we say Om Tat Sat, it liquidates our ego. So we just, instead of thinking about the physical existence, when we truly remember and say Om Tat Sat, we are raising our small ego, small identity to the small self to the higher self. So that should be in our mind. So when he says that all the Brahmins and the Vedas and the Yagyas, they have come from, so that means this is the source. Om Tat Sat is the source from which all castes, the Vedas, not just Brahman alone. He's saying Brahman, but that means all, everything has come from there. The Vedas also, the worships also. They all proceeded from that God. This is the source. Everything is just a superimposition. The substratum is Om. So let me read it again, the translation, because a lot of times we get confused with these verses. There's nothing to be confused about. Just look at the reason this verse has been put in there, because he gave us so much information about the ahar also, about the dan also, about the tap also, about the yagya also. So then he said, just say Om Tat Sat. Excuse me. While you are performing those actions, before you eat also, sure, first make sure you are eating the right things, but while eating, Om Tat Sat. Do your homework, where you want to give, how much you want to give, what time you want to give, but while giving, Om Tat Sat. Detach your mind from that action. Even when we are doing any kind of austerity, keep in your mind Om Tat Sat. So that means remembering God and only God. Your own personal likings, dislikings, they all fall down. So he says, Om Tat Sat, this has been declared to be the triple designation of Brahma. See, there are two words over here that look same, Brahmana and Brahman. Brahmana is Brahma, that is supreme absolute Godhood. Brahman is, he's talking about the different classifications in human beings. So Om Tat Sat, this has been declared to be the triple designation of Brahma. So Brahm is Om also, Brahm is Tat also, Brahm is Sat also. Okay. So by that were created formally the Brahman, Vedas and sacrifices. And how are we to use the term Om? See, now he's going to, in next verse, Om, then in verse number 25, Tat, then verse number 26, Sat. So first he talked about the three together, now individually also. So it must be that important that he spent like 4 verses on just these 3 small letters. तस्मात् ओम उदाहृत्य यज्ञ दान तपा क्रिया प्रवर्तन्ते विधान उक्ता सततम ब्रह्म वादिनाम. तस्मात्, therefore, om udahrite. Udahrite means uttering. And this uttering is not just from the mouth uttering. Udahrite really means mentally also. Yajna dan tapa, the acts of worship, charity, and austerity. That's what means yajna dan tapa kriya. Kriya is the actions. Pravatante, begun. Vidhanukta. It's like a scriptural vidhan enjoined in the scriptures. Okay? Scriptures talk about it. Satatam, always. Brahmavadinam, by the students of Brahma. There are students of different sciences. So this is a student of Brahma. Students who want to know, who want to merge with that absolute reality. Therefore, with the utterance of Om are begun the acts of worship, charity, and austerity. As enjoined in the scriptures, always by the students of Brahma. You're all familiar with whenever we do any kind of a worship, how many times we say Om. So this Om should not stay only in the lips. It should be with the mind also, and we should understand what this Om really means. It's a name of God. We are trying to connect with God. We are trying to thank God. So the term Om is uttered while acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity are undertaken. And Brahmavadi Nam, that could, to me, I think it also means the followers of the higher life. The students who really want to uplift themselves. Okay, so the Brahmavadi Nam. So right now we do it for when we worship, we use the name of God. But when we are eating also, we should do the same thing. When we are giving also, because normally when we are helping somebody, we are giving a charity. What is in our mind? We got to look at it. Is God in our mind at that time when we are giving? Or is there a self-importance that, oh, I'm giving so much? Or is it that, oh gosh, I could have given less, others didn't give this much? What is in our mind? If there's a God in our mind, only then he says, you are a follower of the higher life. And we are all followers of the higher life, but how much we are aware of it? So to invoke in our mind the divine concept of the absolute is to free our personality from its limited fields of egocentric attachments. When we detach from the lower, only then we can move towards the higher. We got to learn how to liberate from its limitations. Because mind is the one which puts all kinds of limitations. Ego puts all kinds of limitations. So we got to liberate ourselves. We got to make sure that all the worships we do, all the austerities we do, all the charities we perform, they liberate us from the limitations. And now look at Tat. So this was for Om, now Tat. Tat iti anabhisandhai phalam yagye tapakriya दान क्रिया च विविधा क्रियन्ते मोक्ष कांक्षिभिः. Tat, that, iti means thus, anabhisandhaye, without aiming at, phalam, fruit, yagya, tap, kriya, acts of worship, austerity, dan kriya, acts of charity, vividha, various, kriyante, performed, moksha kankshibhi, by the seekers of liberation. Uttering tat without aiming at the fruits. Okay. See, tat, I told you, this tat is with a capital T, tat. So, uttering tat without aiming at the fruits, these fruits are like worldly fruits, are the acts of sacrifice and austerity and the various acts of charity performed by the seekers of liberation. So, in the previous verse, he used the word Brahmavadinam, and I said that's the students of Brahm. Over here, he's using a very common terminology which we are familiar with, moksha kankshibhi, the seekers of the liberation. So when we say tat means that our goal, that ultimate goal is a moksha. So by doing these actions, we got to never forget that we are trying to attain the moksha. Because if we get attached to the worldly fruits, then we are not taking that higher flight. We are just staying only at the worldly level. I'm giving or I'm doing the worship and I want these kind of results, then those results are, no matter how good they are still worldly results. So we got to remember the ultimate purpose. So those who are seekers of liberation. So this Lord Krishna is prescribing a technique to liberate our personality from our own physical appetite, emotional weakness, intellectual entanglement. Because whether it's a body or the mind or the intellect, it's just entangled over here. He says, by doing this properly, you can release yourself. So this is called liberation. It really widens our horizon, takes us beyond the earthly gravitational pull. So same act, one person is doing it, is getting pulled down. The same act, somebody else is doing it while keeping the higher goal, will get released from these worldly temptations. So a person who's trying to liberate himself from his own attachments, selfish desires, self-centeredness, and what does this give to us? All of these things, they give us agitations. So we got to look at it. Sometimes we think we are doing everything, but we are still agitated. Why are we agitated? Because we don't have a right kind of a motive while doing these actions. We got to deliberately extinguish our desires, our vasanas. So this shalok is providing a tip to the seekers on how this subtle result can be achieved through actions performed with the right mental attitude. Okay, the mental attitude has to be right. So yajna, dan, tap are not to be performed for material rewards, but for the eternal welfare of the soul through God realization. That's what he's telling us. Okay, don't let go of the actions, but let go of the attachment to the fruit of the actions. So again, I'll tell you, Tat indicates the universal truth. It also means the oneness of all living creatures. That also comes from this small word, Tat. Okay. So if we remember the large interest of the family and we forget our own self-interest, we are considered a better human being. A mother is sacrificing for the betterment of the family, or a father, a parent, I should say. Or if we are working for the community and letting go of our own family interests also, that means we are raising our interest into a higher realm. Or if you want to go even higher than that, work for the national redemption and overlooking the limited community benefit. And beyond that is to work for the world and humanity and let go of your national interests. Over here, Lord Krishna is telling us go even beyond that while doing everything. Taking care of your body, also eating right food, helping the society also by giving the charity, doing your duties towards the parents and the society and the gurus and all that also with the yajna. Worship also remembering God, but ultimately connect and achieve your highest goal. Okay? Because in the highest goal, it's a universal oneness of the spiritual truth. We are all one. Work with no ego. Let go of all the limitations of the matter. That is that. And then what is the significance of repeating Sat and its implications? Sad bhave, sadhu bhave, sat iti etat prayuchyate, prashasatam karmani tatha, sat shabad parth yujyate. Sad bhave in the sense of reality. Sad. Sadhu bhave in the sense of goodness. Sadhu. Cha means and. Iti means thus. Etat means this. Paryujyate is used. So that means Sat means that always exists. Eternal truth. Prashastam, auspicious. Karmani, in the act, in the sense of act, karmani. Tatha means also. Sat Shabad, Shabad is the word. Parth is for Arjun. Yujyate is used. The word Sat is used in the sense of reality and of goodness. And also, O Parth, the word Sat is used in the sense of an auspicious act. Okay? So Sat is used to mean both reality and goodness. It is also used for all the praiseworthy actions. See, there is a relative reality and there's an absolute reality. So whenever we are doing relative reality, Sat word is relative reality means in this world, what is good for majority of the people? Sat work. Then what is absolute reality? That is God. Okay, so there are two terms I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Sat and the Rit, right? Satyam cha, Ritam cha. Over here, because it is related with the worldly things, is talking about Sat. Rhythm is a cosmic truth and order. That's a rhythm. Satyam is a worldly human truth, good actions. Sat, Satyam. Okay, so that's why he says you are doing the action over here. Just use this. Do the good actions. Just remember your goal. Remember God. Keep on doing the right actions. Om Tat Sat. And use of the designation Sat for Brahma. Yagye tapsi dane cha sthiti sat iti cha uchyate karam cha ev tadarthyam sat iti ev abhidhiyate. So he is further explaining this sat word in this verse. So he is using two words to you to explain sat for us. Yagye, the worship, tapsi in austerity, dan in charity, sthiti steadiness, sat iti means thus, uchyate is called. Karam action, cha means and, ev is also, tadarthyam in connection with these. Tad arth, it also means for the sake of the Supreme. Sat iti ev means even, abdhiyate is called. So steadfastness, sthiti means steadfastness. So it's not that one day you do it and next day you don't. You got to have a steadfastness in this kind of a living. So steadfastness in worship, austerity, and charity is also called sat. And also action in connection with these. Action in connection with these means for the sake of Supreme. So this is a ladder which will take you towards your ultimate goal. That's also Sat, is called Sat, he says. So Sat is, when we use the word Sat, it also means that we have a faith in this higher goal. So devotion in the worship, devotion in our austerity and in our charity. So when we use the word Sat, it's just a registering in our mind a little faith for these actions. So even acts of sacrifice, austerity, when they are not for the sattvic type, we will see that there is no attunement within. So that's why we got to make an effort to bring it to the sattvic kind, but ultimately just remember you are doing it for that higher purpose. So Om Tat Sat. Okay, so Om means supreme, Tat means universal also. That means the ultimate goal also, and Sat means the real. So together it means the infinite Brahm. So we chant this. All of you have been chanting all your life. But while chanting, sometimes we just forget the real meaning behind it. So that's why Lord Krishna spent so many verses so that we understand the deeper implication of all. Ultimately, we got to remember to give up our selfishness. We got to give up our arrogance. We got to give up our the lower, baser urges. We have to see, even in our everyday actions, with the help of these actions, are we moving towards the right goal or not? So those required changes only we can bring. And he is just giving us a very powerful tool. Om Tat Sat. So they become perfect only when they are done with a full faith. You remember this chapter started with a question from Arjuna about the faith. Now in the end, the last verse, Lord Krishna is telling us how important the faith is. He says faith is needed even in this world. Okay, otherwise you won't be able to do anything good over here. Forget about the future. So that's why the last verse, then we will end today's class. Ashradhya hutam datam tapa taptam kritam cha yat asat iti uchyate parth na chatat pretye na ihi. Ashradhya. See, Shraddha means faith. Ashraddha means without faith. Hutam, sacrificed. See, sacrifice, when we do the ahuti, it's the same word, sacrifice. Datam, giving. Tapaha, austerity. Tapatam, practiced. Kritam, performed. Yat means whatever. Asat, iti means thus. Uchyate is called parth. Na means not, cha means and, tat means that. Pretye, pretye means after death. Like a hereafter. Na means not, ihi means here. So whatever is sacrificed, okay, like a worshipped, whatever is given or performed, whatever austerity is practiced without faith, it's called asat. O Parth, it is not for here or after death. So that means there's no benefit of it if you do it without faith. So he is just giving a very thundering negative statement over here to indicate that how much faith is needed. Okay. If we are eating something also and we don't have a faith in what we are eating, it's not going to give any benefit. If you are helping somebody, we are doing some worship also. No matter how elaborate the worship is, if there's no faith in it, it's not going to do any good to us. So faith is extremely important. So he says here also and afterwards also. Our faith should not be based upon our own impression of the mind and intellect. It should be based upon the authority of the Vedic scriptures and the Guru. This is the essence of the 17th chapter. Okay? So that's why we study the scriptures, so that we know what the right thing is. Our mind and intellect, they are part of this Prakriti. Today we are believing in this, tomorrow it can be changed. But the Vedic truth or the Guru's words, they are universal. They give us the right direction. So that's why he said that if you don't do it this way, it's no good here or hereafter. The factor that determines the quality, performance of religious acts, the factor that determines the quality and quantity of the results in our faith, in our own efficiency and goodness, and in our field of activity. We need all of this in our secular activities also and in our sacred activities also. We got to see where is it coming from. So any action which is performed without faith becomes barren. That's what asat means, according to Lord Krishna. So any question? Because this is the end of this chapter, and the next week we will start chapter 18. That is one of the longest chapters, chapter 18, the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And the name of that chapter is Moksha Sannyas Yoga. Okay, so we'll take some questions now. Otherwise, I'll just do the Shanti part, and after that we can take the questions. So, Om Purnamada Purnamidam पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। Om Shanti 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 Om. Okay, anybody has a question?
Harshi, I do. Namaste. Manju here.